Okay guys, tonight I'm going to continue my Wera series, and in particular I want to talk about the Wera series of wrenches, and I've got 3 different types here. We're going to start with the oldest set that I have, and it's actually the dirtiest bag that I have. So if you want to know how Wera's tool cases hold up over time, this is 10 years old and it's still in pretty good shape. So let's get these open and get into it. So the first thing that may jump out to you just right off the bat is that these have colored bands on them and these don't. And the next thing would be that these have a regular wrench look and these have kind of like almost the end of a wrench look. But let's look at these first. These are approximately, they're about 10 years old. I got them in 2012 when I was in industrial maintenance, which is why this is the dirtiest set that I have. And this is also one of the most abused sets that I have. Let's just pull this one out and start here. They've got the arrow, so when you want to change directions, you have to flip it over. There's 72 teeth, and the end of the ratcheting wrench was not advertised to be the smallest, but the claim to fame with these wrenches and the thing that they were a big deal. So with this side of the wrench, you just grab something regularly, but when you flip it over, you have that 15 degrees of rotation. But there's an added bonus that this gives you, and I'm going to show you what that is now. So as you can see, it's grabbing this fitting like a regular wrench, and it's got that circle down at the bottom that's pointing towards the screw that prevents corner offloading, so it helps to prevent these from rounding out. But the cool thing about these wrenches, when you put in a fastener like this, the insert on the backside prevents it from backing out, which means basically it holds it in place, and the only way it can fall out is down if you sling it down hard enough. This one's a pretty good fit in here, but some of the other nuts and fasteners will actually fall out pretty easily. But this means if I want to reach behind here, let's say this is a bolt, I can reach behind here and push it through and start the nut on this side. I don't have to worry about dropping it. So you've got a really long reach just from having the ability to do that. So in tight spaces, those are absolutely phenomenal, I will say. So this is the original Wera Joker series. They're 10 years of use. Let's look into them a little bit more. See, there is a blemish right there where the steel has been ate into a little bit. These wrenches have a pretty good hardness for steel. You can see that that insert has come up just a little bit. The good thing about the inserts is they're just a Torx bit, and you can change them out pretty easily if you damage one. So if you run across a set of these used, I definitely recommend to buy them. They're a lot more expensive now than they were then, and the way to tell if they're old or not is that color striping that's going to be on your newer sets. So let's talk about the newer sets. The newer sets have colors. They have kind of the same, not chrome finish, but kind of a galvanized steel look to them. They have the part number stapled on each wrench. And as you can see, that these are the closed, these are the box end wrenches on one side and then open on the other, but they still have that design. And that 15 degrees right there can absolutely be a lifesaver.
All right, guys, I just wanted to do a quick action shot to show how awesome this thing is. I am up under the dash of a Mooney. I don't have much room. I have to have an open end wrench because this is a cable that goes to a mixture setting on a carburetor. And I don't have a lot of play. I have a bar up here, then I'm hitting this down there. So the ability to have that 15 degrees of swing is going phenomenal right now. I've already got it all the way tight, but if I didn't have that ability to do the 15 degrees of swing, it would not be happening. And I also think that because the wrench is slightly offset, I think it's actually, if you flip it over, it's only 7 degrees, but I'll do some research and find that out. But I just want to do a quick action shot and show y'all like how useful that feature is when you're out in the field doing stuff.
Now, if you just watched that clip and you thought to yourself, well, you probably could have used a Nipix there. I tried to use my Nipix, but I couldn't. The issue with a Nipix sometimes is that you have to be able to have enough room to open the jaw and then re-engage. Nipix can only get every 30 degrees. Now, they'll love the Nipix. They're a great tool for the range you get and for the weight of the tool. It's definitely worth to have with you. But the ability to do that 15 degrees, and then when you flip it, maybe even, you know, like I said, I think it's 7 degrees. So you can get 7 degrees per turn. Turn it, take it off, flip it, 7 degrees. This is a must-have in the toolbox, in my opinion. I've got 2 wrenches in my hand. They're both 5/8. You can see that the ratcheting wrench is much larger. It's longer, but also the physical dimensions of the wrenches. The new standard wrench set, they're about as thin as a thin set wrench. This is hardly any bigger than 1/4 of an inch. So basically you're buying a set of thin wrenches at the head, and you get a little bit of flexibility with being able to flop it over and grab things more than just straight on. All right, let's talk about the new kids on the block. First things first, these do not come purple. All the Wera have that design. That's from their, it's called Craft Form logo. That's basically a copy and paste from their screwdrivers. That's just the way they do their branding. I went ahead and put these on there because when I brought the Knipex to the shop that I'm at now, no one had Knipex. And now everyone has Knipex, and we had to use paint pens and color coordinate because we kept mixing them up. I feel like the same thing is going to happen with these. So let's talk about what this is, and I'll insert a clip of me using this now. Grabbing it at the points, and then we're able to loosen it. And then when I want to go to tighten it, it's kind of weird. You kind of want to push the wrench like that, and it makes it open up. So as you're on it, you just push it to open up. You'll re-grab, and then again. And then after you get used to it, you don't even really notice that you push it. You just kind of bring it back. And as you can see, the jaw's open, and it functions pretty much like a regular wrench, regular ratcheting wrench. But having those 2 teeth in there, I don't know if you can see it, I'm pretty much grabbing off the teeth every time on this. And it helps it stay better than when you're on the flats. See if I can get on the flats. See, I can't get on the flats because I can't get in it all the way. So even though I don't have a lot of room underneath it, and I can't go all the way because I'm hitting the cylinder jug, it's still working pretty well. I mean, as I'm using it, it's almost more comfortable than a Knipex because I don't have to fool with letting my hand open and close. The downside is you do have to get more sets, but the Wera Joker is a very good tool that I think is being overlooked right now because it seems kind of gimmicky. There's quite a few tools that do this function here that are absolute garbage. This is not one of those. This actually works really well. They've got this figured out. As far as torque, I don't really know how much torque these can take, but the handles are so small. So far, me pushing about as hard as I can hasn't broken this, so that is a really good sign. This is a ratcheting wrench. I've only been using these for about a month. I can't speak to the durability. It is not the first thing that I go for. I'll be honest with you about that. However, the couple of times where it comes in handy to use it, it's been nice. So the thing about it is that it's a ratcheting wrench. It works similarly to a Knipex, right? Where you have multiple sizes, the jaws will open, and you can almost get that ratcheting feature. However, the advantage to these over the Knipex is that I don't have to deal with opening and closing these with my hands. And the other advantage is that this takes up a lot less space inside an engine bay or up under a dash than having to open these 2 handles. So the one handle design gets you a lot smaller profile. So more on the Joker 6004 series will come. Right now, I'm thinking that it's a really good specialty tool. It can break something loose as long as you're just using your hand. But this isn't really something that you need to use, you know. I'll be honest with you, I've taken a Knipex and hit him on the back of a bolt, and there's a few marks there from where I've done it. This is not the tool you do that with. This is kind of a more delicate tool because I'm sure that there's a spring in there that makes this operate appropriately. There's a few pictures online of this plastic piece that has fallen out. I haven't had any issues. I think if you use the tool correctly and how it was designed, you will also not have issues. But the main point and the main thing that make all the Wera wrenches a little bit unique and interesting is their ability to be able to grab a bolt or a nut on the corners and not just the flats. So all of these will grab the flats, no problem, as we demonstrated already, but they'll all also grab the corners of the bolts. So that just takes your range of motion down a lot more, where you can actually get to things where other wrenches may not work. And for that reason, I am a big fan of Wera wrenches. I think that they're a tool that you should take care of They're not a tool that I'm gonna hit with a hammer to try to take something loose. They're not a tool I'm gonna put a wrench extender on. I know some people won't buy a tool that's like that. I think they can definitely handle the torque. And to be honest with you, I know that some of my coworkers in industrial maintenance have put wrench extenders and put things, you know, hook two wrenches together to get stuff loose with these ratcheting wrenches. So you're definitely not supposed to do that with ratchet wrenches, but all of them still work immaculately. Another thing I want to point out, just while I have the wrenches here and we're doing the Wera series, like I said earlier in the first series, I mainly work on general aviation aircraft. There is hardly any metric nuts or bolts, and if there are, generally the Nipix is going to cover them, and if not that, the Wera has the range to do standard or metric, these Joker wrenches, the 6004 series. But here in my hand is a 1/2-inch wrench, and you can see that it has a green band on it. Here in my 3/8 drive set, you can see that the 1/2-inch socket is green, and they're the same color. And I was kind of skeptical about how useful that would be. And then when you have, you know, maybe these two in your bin or these two rolling around in your drawer because you're working on top, and you're like, oh, I want the 1/2-inch. I'm like, okay, let's find the green one. Whereas if all the sockets are the same color chrome, maybe you're gonna grab the 7/16 by mistake, or maybe you're even grabbing a metric one by mistake. So the color bands on the Wera stuff, I think is actually a really good idea. And that's just part of Wera's thing. Wera, like I said in their first video, Wera is their own company. They manufacture their own stuff in the Czech Republic. So if they want to do something, they do it. They don't have to go through all these approvals. Gear Wrench is an awesome company, but Gear Wrench is not manufactured by, let's just say, Gear Wrench. Gear Wrench has other brands that are manufactured with the same quality that they are. So if they want to do a change to a Gear Wrench tool, they've got to see how it affects all the other tools in their line because of the manufacturing process. Whereas the Nipix, or as with the Wera, and by the way, I think these are supposed to be called Nipix, so my Southern, we all call them Nipix. That's just what it is. Apologize if that offends you. But as far as Wera and Nipix, they own their manufacturing facilities, they own their patents, and I think because of that, you get a much better product to the end user. As I'm sitting here packing everything up at the end of the video, I wanted to point out one more thing. A lot of my previous coworkers will have wrenches shadowed in their box exactly how this is laid out. So if I have a huge drawer like this, and I'll have maybe 30 wrenches in it because this takes up a lot of space. But when you leave them in their case and you throw them in a drawer, you can fit so many more wrenches with this roll-up design in the same space versus laying them flat and shadowing them. So that's a big plus in my book. And one last thing to mention, this also serves, the case actually serves as another way to, let's just say, shadow your toolbox. Shadowing a toolbox is just a way to let you know that there's a tool missing before you close that drawer. So before I roll this thing up, I'm gonna just do a quick and say, oh, I'm missing a wrench. And it's very noticeable, it's very easy, it's a lot less bulky than foam, and it works really well, especially if you're somebody who travels and you go to the field, and especially if you're somebody who says, I've got to go up inside this aircraft, I got to walk all the way from the front door to the tail on the inside, I don't know what size I'm going to need. I would much rather take this than have everything shadowed in a drawer. So, you know, you have to look at philosophy of use for this stuff. I think that for traveling techs and stuff like that, the Wera stuff is absolutely phenomenal. This lived in a tool bag for years when I was in industrial maintenance, and it's gone with me to every job I've had since then, and it's never let me down. It's a really good system to use for just tool accountability.